Could the Miami Heat acquire Jalen Green this NBA offseason? That is what we're going to talk about on today's show. I am Nic Rohloff. This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports. I know many of you might be thinking this is kind of a crazy idea. I would actually agree with you. But Ryen Russillo said that the Heat should look into getting Jalen Green via trade this offseason, so I wanted to talk about it because, well, it's the offseason, and what else are we going to talk about? This is what Russillo actually said when referring to Jalen Green. And what would Miami offer that would make sense? Is there a three-team thing where Miami says, we'll bring him in, we're in transition anyways, and he's a really talented guy? And you can say a lot about Jalen Green, the basketball player, and how he is in the NBA. One thing you can not dispute is the fact that he is extremely talented. He's got a quick step with the basketball. He's got a really good bounce to him. He's super athletic. And Miami, looking for more athleticism, more scoring, could maybe be in the business of Jalen Green. We'll talk about it on today's show. But before we get into that, I want to make sure you're subscribed. Why is that? Well, because on Friday, May 9th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Pat Riley's end of the season press conference will finally commence. And that is why you need to subscribe, because we will have a full breakdown of what Pat Riley says. We'll have takeaways. Remember, last year we had a lot to talk about, referring to what he said about Jimmy, Tyler Hero. We'll see what he has in store for us on Friday afternoon. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a piece of our content, because it will be a doozy on Friday afternoon. All right, when it comes to potentially trading for Jalen Green, he is, if you remember, the former second overall pick in 2021. And to me, he is an extremely talented guy, but he's almost just a lesser version of Tyler Hero at this point in their respective careers. Now, maybe you can argue that at Hero's fourth year, Jalen Green was better, and they play a different style of basketball due to that athleticism. But when you talk about the strengths and weaknesses, well, the strengths of Jalen Green are scoring on volume. The weaknesses is defense and inefficiencies. Well, coming into the year that Tyler Hero just had, those were the main concerns that Tyler was being asked as well. Jalen Green's been in the NBA 4 years, and he is a consistent 20-point per game scorer. His career averages are 20.1 points per game, 4.3 rebounds, 3.4 assists, shooting 42% from the field and 34% from three. Like, we know what Jalen Green is. He is a volume scorer. Like, he is not going to be an efficient scorer. Like, if you want him to give you 20 on 14 shots, shooting 50% from the field and 38% from three, like Tyler basically did this year, well, that's not what Jalen's going to give you. But he gives you a lot more attention, if you will, because teams are just more cognizant of his ability to drive by you and get to the rim. Now, I will say this. As many people believe Jalen Green is a player that can get inside the paint and finish due to his explosiveness and athleticism, he actually isn't the best finisher inside the paint. And the one thing that he does not do well is finish in the intermediate game. This is his career shot chart, and you see it. He primarily gets a lot of shots in the restricted area as well as from beyond the arc. But it's not the most efficient scoring inside the restricted area. You see the cluster of light blue there. He's slightly below average, actually 5% under league average since he's entered the league. And something that Tyler Hero specializes in is that 8-foot to 12-foot elbow jumper / one-legged floater just inside the painted area. Jalen Green doesn't take that shot, and when he does take that shot, he's incredibly inefficient. So, yeah, Jalen Green's a scorer, but he's not as good as a scorer as Tyler Hero is in their respective careers. Hero, in his career, shoots 44% from the field and 38% from three. Those numbers are significantly higher than Jalen Green's career averages. So, before we talk more about trading for Jalen Green, I want to know your thoughts. Make the call. Would you trade for the former second overall pick? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Today's pinned comment. So if you hit with a YouTube ad break, scroll down, let it play, and answer today's question. I would not trade for Jalen Green. And this was a quick no for me, if I'm going to be honest. You might ask why I do not want to trade for Jalen Green. You can rave about the athleticism. And that's the one thing that I'll come back and back and back on. is that when you watch him in the open floor, you watch him sometimes be able to break down his defender with his handle and first step. It is awesome. It is very fun to watch. But as I've mentioned throughout the show so far, he is wildly inefficient. We haven't even talked about his defense, which is on par in terms of how bad it is with Tyler Hero, if not worse. So when you factor in the inefficiencies, the bad defense, you can't play him next to Tyler Hero. He can't play make. He's not a distributor for others. So that backcourt of Hero and Jalen Green would be an absolute disaster. Not to mention that his rookie contract extension is finally setting in this upcoming season to where he's now making $33 million. He's actually on the same timeline contractually as Tyler Hero. Remember, Hero making $31 million this upcoming year, 34, 35 million next year, and then is in line for that extension 3 years for 149.7 mil. Jaylen Green has 2 guaranteed years left, just like Hero, a player option for $36 million in 2027-28 before he is an unrestricted free agent. So it's not like if you traded for Jalen Green and you like bounced off Tyler Hero, it's not like you're resetting your timeline and giving yourself an extra 1 or 2 seasons with a player on a similar style on a similar contract. Like, it's not cheaper. He's only about 2 years younger than Tyler Hero, and Hero's way more established at this point in their career than Jalen Green. Hero's an all-star. Green is not. We also have seen Jalen Green play in the playoffs. That was not very good. Now, you can say the same thing about Tyler Hero, but Green, with his defense and playoff dropping, it's a major concern if you were in the business of acquiring the former second overall pick. And we'll get into the defense and playoff performance, but make sure you do get started with PrizePicks, the daily fantasy sports platform I play every single day. Cash in on the basketball playoffs with PrizePicks. Don't miss your last chance to add your favorite players from the court to your PrizePicks lineup, whether it's points, rebounds, assists. Take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. You can turn those playoff hot takes into tickets to basketball's championship series. Every lineup you make on PrizePicks will enter you into the Takes the Tickets sweepstakes, which could get you and a +1 a VIP trip to the ship. They have weekly specials like Flex Friday, Taco Tuesday, which gives you protections and discounts. You can play any way you want on PrizePicks. I have an entry for today's action in the playoffs. We are looking at that Timberwolves-Warriors game. Go more than Brandon Podziemski, 12.5 points. More than Jimmy Butler, 1.5 3-pointers made. And then more than Rudy Gobert, 9.5 points. 3-player entry here. But join me and the millions of others on PrizePicks today. Download the app and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. I alluded to it just before we told you about PrizePicks, but it feels like Jalen Green might be a playoff dropper, and that is never a good thing. Now, I don't want to harp on the young kid too much here because he did just have his first playoff experience this season, and he's only played in 7 career playoff games. All 7 were in that 7-game series against Golden State just this past week, and he had a really tough series, man. There's no way to describe it other than that. Obviously averaged 20 points a game this season. That dropped all the way down to 13.3 points per game. I've described how inefficient he has been in his career. Well, that took another step in a big way, only shooting 37% from the field and 29.5% from 3. He is similar to Tyler Hero in so many ways. Defensively, the way they play in terms of the ball in their hands and the jump shooting, and also maybe struggling in the playoffs. Like, he borderline looked unplayable during that Warriors-Rockets playoff series. Like, seriously, in those 7 games, when it came down the stretch, Jalen Green wasn't on the court. Houston and Ime Udoka was rocking with Amen Thompson, Alperen Şengün, Dylan Brooks, Fred VanVleet, and then they mixed in Tyrese and Jabari Smith and whoever they wanted to put in, maybe even Steven Adams. Like, Jalen Green started in the backcourt, but when it came down to it, they played Amen Thompson. And I think Houston is going to look to move off of Jalen Green this offseason because they need to pave the way for Amen Thompson to get more involved in the offense. And for him to be a starter. And you're not going to be able to have him develop the way that they want him to if you have Jalen Green taking 18 shots a night in that backcourt. And then you factor in, we know that Ime Udoka prioritized defense in the way he coaches, even going back to the days he was the Celtics head coach. Jalen Green is not a good defender. Now, this was his best season in his career defensively, but I think you could attribute that to the surrounding pieces of Thompson, of Dillon Brooks, of Jabari Smith. This doesn't tell the whole story, but it gives you an indication that he has been a part of a lot of bad defenses. The first 2 seasons of his career were absolutely atrocious. Then Udoka comes into the fold. They draft Ben Thompson, Jabari Smith, and Dillon Brooks comes in via free agency and then drops down to closer to league average at 114.7 and 113.1. Like, the conclusion to this story and conversation is this. I don't think you can look at the way Jalen Green plays, the analytics, the whole 9 yards, and come up with the conclusion that Jalen Green and Tyler Hero would work as a backcourt. There's just no chance it does. Defensively, they both are volume scorers. So I'm not making a trade for Jalen Green because it's not working with him and Tyler. And I'm certainly not trading Tyler Hero for Jalen Green. Hero is barely older, just a couple of years. He's more accomplished. He's more polished. And he understands Heat basketball. Like, it just doesn't make sense for me to trade for Jalen Green. So I don't really fully comprehend why Ryen Russillo would throw an idea out there to acquire Jalen Green, unless you're making Jalen Green your sixth man. But are you going to do that for $33+ million a season? Probably not. All right, we're going to wrap up the show here in just 1 second, but I do want y'all to pick a player for me. Which player would you rather have on your team? Tyler Hero, type TH, or would you rather have Jalen Green, type the JGs? I did want to showcase a trade idea if the Heat were to acquire Jalen Green before signing off on today's show. And this is one where I'm moving off of Hero to get Jalen Green. Now, you could argue that Russillo threw out a 3-team deal where maybe Phoenix trades KD to Houston, Jalen Green goes to Phoenix, but Phoenix doesn't want Jalen Green, so he gets rerouted to Miami. Sure, that's interesting. Trade Andrew Wiggins or something, or Terry Rozier for Jalen Green in that 3-team deal. But if you were just trading for Jalen Green straight up this offseason, this is the only deal that I would consider. You move off Hero, move off Jaquez, and move off Kyle Anderson. You get Jalen Green, but you also get Jabari Smith Jr., the former 3rd overall pick, the talented 6'10 forward that still hasn't really figured it out. But I would also need a first-round pick back in return because I think Hero is just infinitely more value than Jalen Green, if we're going to be honest here. And that is crazy to say that out loud. So you give me a 2028 first that's top 8 protected, Jalen Green and Jabari Smith, who's got 1 year left on his contract for Hero, Jaquez, and Anderson. That's the only way I would consider making this trade. But even then, I'm still extremely skeptical. Like, the reason why I would even do that trade, it's not to acquire Jalen Green. It's to get Jabari Smith and see if he can give you anything in that front court with Bam and Ware in the 2028 first-round pick to give you more draft capital to add to your collection, or make a trade for a superstar in the future. Like, I'm still not making that trade probably, but that's the only trade that could be on the table involving Hero and Jalen Green that makes me at least stop and think for 1 second about potentially making that trade. All right, that will do it for this show. Appreciate everybody tuning in. If you're still watching, make sure you do follow me on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff, talking Heat basketball every single day, reacting to these Heat news and trade rumors out there. And if anything actually happens this offseason, we'll have you covered over there. But make sure you're also subscribed to the channel because we have the best content on YouTube.